Ghetto business, huh? Gregory Hensley sneered, his voice dripping with condescension as he stopped in front of Jamal's lemonade stand, glanced at the hand-painted sign that read, Carter's Cool Lemonade, and let out a sharp laugh. You think you're some kind of entrepreneur, kid? Jamal Carter, just 12 years old, stood frozen behind the small wooden table. His bright yellow shirt matched the optimism he'd felt earlier that morning when setting up his stand. But now, under Gregory's piercing gaze, that confidence began to crumble. Gregory pulled a crumpled dollar bill from his pocket and tossed it onto the table like it was trash. "Here's your welfare check," he said loud enough for nearby pedestrians to hear. A few snickered, while others looked away uncomfortably. "I worked hard on this," Jamal finally managed to say, his voice trembling but defiant. "Hard work doesn't mean much if you're selling sugar water on the street corner," Gregory shot back, smirking. "Maybe focus on something more realistic." The comment hit Jamal like a punch to the gut. Realistic? His dream wasn't unrealistic. It was simple. Sell lemonade, save money for school supplies, and maybe one day open a real shop. But Gregory's words twisted everything, making him feel smaller than ever. Before Jamal could respond, tires screeched nearby. A police car rolled up, its flashing lights casting an ominous glow over the scene. Officer Daniels stepped out, his expression unreadable but intimidating. "What's going on here?" he demanded, glancing between Jamal and Gregory. "This kid's running an illegal operation," Gregory chimed in before Jamal could explain. "No permits, no licenses, just taking up space." Jamal's heart sank. "It's not illegal. I'm just selling lemonade." Officer Daniels ignored him, instead focusing on the makeshift stand. "You need a permit to sell anything on public property," he said sternly. "Didn't anyone tell you that?" "My mom told me it was okay," Jamal protested, clutching the pitcher of lemonade tightly. "Well, she was wrong," Daniels replied, reaching for the cash box sitting beside the cups. "And now we'll have to confiscate your earnings." "No, please," Jamal pleaded, tears welling up in his eyes. "I earned that money fair and square." "You should have thought about the rules before setting this up," Daniels snapped, grabbing the box. A small crowd had gathered by now, whispering among themselves. Some muttered about how kids these days didn't understand the law. Others simply watched in silence. Not a single person stepped forward to defend Jamal, not even those who'd bought lemonade earlier that day. As Daniels turned to leave, Gregory leaned down toward Jamal, his tone mockingly sweet. "Stick to what you know, kid. Maybe mowing lawns or washing cars. That's more your speed." Jamal balled his fists, anger bubbling inside him, but he knew better than to lash out. Instead, he shouted after Daniels, "It's just lemonade. It's not a crime." His voice cracked with desperation, drawing the attention of a young woman standing nearby. She pulled out her phone, filming the chaos unfolding before her. "Let me guess," she muttered sarcastically, pointing the camera at Gregory. "This is all about protecting the neighborhood's integrity, right?" Gregory glared at her but said nothing, choosing instead to walk away. Meanwhile, the video feed captured every tear-streaked word Jamal screamed in protest. By nightfall, the footage had gone viral. Social media timelines buzzed with clips of Jamal shouting, "It's just lemonade," as Officer Daniels confiscated his earnings. Yet, shockingly, most comments weren't supportive. They were cruel. "Typical scam artist," one user wrote. "Using a sob story to get sympathy dollars," another chimed in. "Why are people defending this? He broke the law. Rules apply to everyone." The backlash stung worse than Gregory's insults or Daniel's accusations. Jamal sat hunched over, his phone late that evening, scrolling through endless streams of mockery. Each hateful comment felt like another brick added to the wall of injustice pressing down on him. Monique Carter noticed her son's defeated posture and gently took the phone from his hands. "Don't let them break you, Jamal," she said softly. "They don't know your heart, but they don't care, Mom," Jamal replied, his voice heavy with despair. "They only see what they want to see." Meanwhile, across town, the video reached someone unexpected. Oprah Winfrey clicked play during her morning routine, sipping coffee as she watched Jamal's tearful plea. Her brow furrowed, and she paused mid-sip, rewinding the clip to catch every detail. "What made you film this?" she asked aloud, though no one was around to answer. Something about the boy's determination resonated deeply with her. She opened her laptop, typing notes furiously. There was potential here, a spark worth nurturing. Back. At school the next day, Jamal tried to ignore the whispers following him down the hallway. Marcus Rivera, his best friend since kindergarten, avoided eye contact altogether. When Jamal finally confronted him, Marcus hesitated, guilt flickering across his face. "Look, man, I didn't mean to," Marcus began, trailing off awkwardly. "To what?" Jamal pressed, his voice rising slightly. Marcus sighed, looking anywhere but at Jamal. "Gregory Hensley paid me to spread rumors about you. Said you stole supplies for your stand or something." Jamal blinked, stunned. Betrayal sliced through him sharper than any insult online. Oprah leaned back in her chair, replaying the video once more. The boy's resilience struck her, not just in his words but in the raw emotion behind them. He wasn't asking for pity, he was fighting for dignity. She jotted down ideas, brainstorming ways to amplify his story without overshadowing his voice. What started as a simple act of entrepreneurship had spiraled into a national conversation about privilege, power, and prejudice. Her assistant knocked lightly on the doorframe. "Your 9 o'clock is here," she announced. Oprah waved dismissively. "Reschedule it, I'm working on something important." As she sketched out plans, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment mattered. More than ratings or headlines. This wasn't just about Jamal anymore. It was about every child who'd been dismissed because of where they came from, or the color of their skin. Little did she know, her decision to step in would ripple far beyond what anyone expected, including Jamal himself. Monique Carter stormed into Chief Whitaker's office the next morning, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "My son was humiliated in front of the entire neighborhood," she said, slamming a printed copy of the viral video on his desk. "And for what? Selling lemonade?" Whitaker barely glanced at the paper before leaning back in his chair. "Ma'am, your son broke city ordinances. He didn't have a permit. We can't make exceptions just because he's a kid." "Exceptions?" Monique repeated, incredulous. "You think this is about leniency. This is about fairness. No one gets arrested for selling lemonade unless they look like my son." Whitaker sighed, as if burdened by her persistence. "Look, I understand how you feel." "No, you don't," Monique interrupted, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You wouldn't understand because you've never had to fight for respect when everyone around you assumes you're guilty before you even open your mouth." The chief shifted uncomfortably, but remained unmoved. "I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. The law is the law." Monique clenched her fists, biting back tears. She wanted to scream, to demand justice, but she knew it wouldn't change anything. As she walked out of the station, her mind raced. If the system wouldn't listen, maybe someone else would. That evening, she called Jamal's school principal, hoping to shield him from further harassment. But when she mentioned Gregory Hensley's name, the principal hesitated. "Mrs. Carter, I'd be careful about accusing people like Mr. Hensley. He has influence in this community." "Influence?" Monique echoed bitterly. "Influence bought silence, and silence let injustice thrive." Gregory Hensley sat in his luxury condo, scrolling through social media with a smug grin. The backlash against Jamal had exceeded his expectations, but he wasn't done yet. Picking up his phone, he dialed a local news station. "I hear this kid's family is using public outrage to scam donations," he told the reporter on the other. "And it's disgusting. They're exploiting their own child for attention." Within hours, the narrative shifted. Comment sections were flooded with accusations that Monique had orchestrated the whole ordeal to raise money online. Even some of Jamal's neighbors began whispering behind closed doors. At school, Jamal felt the weight of the lies crushing him. Kids who once ignored him now started, pointing fingers and laughing. Guess your mom's running a charity now. One boy sneered during lunch. Jamal shoved his tray aside, unable to eat. When he got home, Monique hugged him tightly, trying to reassure him. Don't let them win, baby. Their words don't define us. But the damage was done. That night, Jamal overheard his mother on the phone with a friend. Every door we try to open slams shut, she admitted, her voice breaking. How do we fight something so big? Meanwhile, Gregory posted another update on his profile. It's time to stop enabling these freeloaders. Accountability matters. His followers cheered him on, oblivious to the truth, or unwilling to see it. Across town, investigative journalist Lila Harper scrolled through the same post, her eyes narrowing. Something about Gregory's tone struck her as calculated, almost too perfect. Who benefits from tearing down a 12-year-old boy, she wondered. And why go to such lengths? She jotted down notes, determined to dig deeper. Lila Harper spent the next 2 days poring over property records, zoning laws, and Gregory Hensley's business history. What started as curiosity quickly turned into suspicion. Look at this, she muttered to herself, pulling up a map of recent real estate developments. Each red dot represented a neighborhood where minority families had been displaced due to sudden rent hikes or evictions. And every single one surrounded properties owned by Gregory. Her heart raced as she connected the dots. This isn't coincidence, she whispered. He's systematically pushing people out to build his empire. To confirm her theory, Lila reached out to former residents of those neighborhoods. One woman, an elderly black grandmother named Ruth, recounted how Gregory's company had offered her a fraction of her home's value. They said I could either sell cheap or face foreclosure, Ruth explained, her voice shaking. I lost everything. Armed with evidence, Lila drafted an article exposing Gregory's schemes. But something still nagged at her. Why target Jamal specifically? Her research led her to Officer Daniels, whose name appeared repeatedly in complaints filed by minority families. When she finally tracked him down for an interview, Daniels hesitated, glancing nervously around the diner where they met. Listen, he began, lowering his voice. Gregory called me personally about that kid. Said his lemonade stand was bad for the image of the area. I didn't want to do it, but what? Lila pressed, leaning closer. He threatened to pull funding from the department if I didn't shut it down. You know how tight budgets are? We couldn't afford to lose that kind of support. Lila scribbled furiously, adrenaline coursing through her veins. This wasn't just about greed. It was about control. As she left the diner, her phone buzzed. With a notification. Another anonymous tip had come in, one that promised to reveal Gregory's biggest secret yet. Jamal avoided Marcus Rivera for days, unable to face the betrayal gnawing at him. When Marcus cornered him after gym class, guilt etched across his face. Jamal couldn't stay silent. Why did you lie about me? Jamal demanded, his voice cracking. We've been friends forever. Marcus hesitated, looking anywhere, but at Jamal. I didn't mean to hurt you, okay? Gregory paid me. He said no one would believe me if I didn't say you stole supplies or whatever. So you just sold me out? Jamal shot back, anger bubbling beneath the surface. For what, $100, 200? 500, Marcus admitted quietly. But it doesn't matter, all right? I messed up. I should have stood by you. Jamal shook his head, disbelief giving way to hurt. You think saying sorry fixes this? Everyone thinks I'm some kind of thief now, all because of you. I'll fix it, Marcus insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. I'll tell everyone the truth, just give me a chance. Before Jamal could respond, a group of boys approached, laughing cruelly. Hey, Marcus, still hanging out? With the scammer? One taunted. Marcus flinched, stepping away from Jamal without another word. Later that night, Jamal lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Betrayal stung worse than insults or mockery. It wasn't just strangers turning against him. It was someone he trusted completely. In the shadows, however, a figure watched silently. Ezekiel Hensley, hidden behind sunglasses and a hoodie, observed Jamal's quiet resilience. There was strength in this boy, he realized, a spark worth protecting. Lila arranged a follow-up meeting with Officer Daniels, determined to get more details about Gregory's involvement. This time, Daniels seemed less guarded, perhaps sensing her growing resolve. Gregory doesn't just pressure cops. Daniels confessed. He controls half the city council. If you cross him, you're finished. And Jamal? Lila prodded gently. Daniels sighed, rubbing his temples. He made it personal, told me the stand was ruining the aesthetic of his condos, like a kid selling drinks could actually threaten his multi-million-dollar projects. But why? Target a 12-year-old? Lila asked, though she already suspected the answer. It's not about logic, Daniels replied bitterly. It's about power. Making an example out of someone powerless reminds everyone else who's in charge. Lila nodded, piecing together the puzzle. Gregory's actions weren't random. They were deliberate, calculated moves designed to reinforce dominance. As she prepared to leave, Daniels added one final detail. There's something else you should know. Years ago, Gregory adopted a black kid, Ezekiel. People say he disappeared after turning 18. No one talks about it anymore. The revelation sent chills down Lila's spine. Could Ezekiel hold the key to unraveling Gregory's empire? Lila dove headfirst into uncovering Ezekiel's story, starting with old adoption records and newspaper clippings. The trail was sparse but telling. Ezekiel had been a star student, outspoken about racial inequality, until his abrupt disappearance from public life. One name kept appearing: Reverend Jameson, a civil rights advocate who'd worked closely with Ezekiel. Tracking him down, Lila found him in a modest church basement, flipping through faded photographs. Ezekiel was brilliant, Reverend Jameson recalled fondly, but dangerous to people like Gregory. He exposed corruption wherever he saw. When he turned 18, Gregory cut him off completely, disowned him. For speaking out, Lila guessed. Jameson nodded grimly. Gregory couldn't handle having a black son who challenged his worldview. So he erased him. Lila's pulse quickened. If Ezekiel was alive, he might be willing to confront his father and validate Jamal's struggle. Her search led her to a nonprofit focused on economic empowerment for marginalized communities. Its founder, listed only as EH, bore a striking resemblance to young photos of Ezekiel. When Lila finally met him, Ezekiel listened intently to Jamal's story. "This boy's courage reminds me of myself at his age," he said softly. "But unlike me, he won't face Gregory alone." With Ezekiel on board, the pieces began falling into place. Justice might still feel distant, but hope burned brighter than ever. The envelope arrived on a Monday morning, its contents cold and clinical. Monique Carter stared at the legal papers accusing her of scamming donations through Jamal's lemonade stand. Her hands trembled as she read Gregory Hensley's accusations, claims so absurd they bordered on laughable if they weren't devastating. "He's suing us?" Jamal asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Monique nodded, forcing herself to stay composed for her son's sake. "He says we exploited public sympathy for financial gain." "But that's not true," Jamal protested, tears welling up in his eyes. "I worked hard for every dollar." "I know, baby," Monique replied, pulling him into a tight hug. "But fighting this will cost more than we can afford. I'm sorry." By the end of the week, their makeshift stand was dismantled, the painted, and stored away like a forgotten dream. Jamal wandered through the house aimlessly, his once bright optimism dimmed by despair. For the first time, he felt truly powerless against a system designed to crush people like him. At school, whispers followed him everywhere. Even teachers seemed distant, unsure whether to believe the lies or defend him. Marcus tried reaching out again, but Jamal ignored him. Forgiveness felt impossible when trust had been shattered. One evening, Monique found Jamal sitting alone in his room, staring blankly at the wall. "What happens now, Mom?" he asked, his voice hollow. She sat beside him, brushing his hair back gently. "We keep going. We always find a way." But deep down, even Monique doubted those words. Little did they know, help was closer than they realized, and it came from someone who understood exactly what they were facing. "Good evening, everyone," Oprah began. her voice steady yet commanding as cameras rolled live. Tonight, we're talking about a young boy whose story has captured hearts and exposed injustices many would rather ignore. On screen, footage of Jamal's arrest played alongside clips of Gregory Hensley smirking during interviews. The contrast was jarring, highlighting the hypocrisy of a man who claimed to care about community values while targeting a child. This isn't just about one boy selling lemonade, Oprah continued. It's about systemic racism, privilege, and the length some will go to silence those who challenge their power. Gregory watched from home, fuming. How dare she turn this into a spectacle? He grabbed his phone, ready to issue another statement, but before he could type a word, Oprah dropped her next bombshell. And joining me tonight is someone who knows Gregory Hensley better than anyone, a man whose life was erased because he dared to speak truth to power. Please welcome Ezekiel Hensley. As Ezekiel stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted in applause. His presence radiated strength and purpose, silencing skeptics instantly. Ezekiel, Oprah said, turning to him, tell us your story. Ezekiel took a deep breath, his gaze locked firmly on the camera. What followed would change everything, not just for Jamal, but for countless others silenced by injustice. I was adopted into wealth, Ezekiel began, his voice calm but charged with emotion. But wealth doesn't shield you from racism. Not when your father sees you as a liability instead of a son. He recounted years of navigating Gregory's expectations, excelling academically while advocating for marginalized communities. When I turned 18, I spoke out against corruption in real estate practices my father championed. That's when he cut me off, disowned me, erased me. The audience gasped, murmurs rippling through the crowd. But I didn't disappear quietly, Ezekiel continued. I spent years uncovering the truth about his dealings. And today, I bring evidence proving Gregory embezzled millions earmarked for minority housing projects. Oprah held up documents provided by Ezekiel, each page detailing fraudulent transactions and falsified records. These aren't allegations, she emphasized. They're facts. Gregory's face flashed briefly on screen, a clip of him boasting about revitalizing neighborhoods. Ezekiel leaned forward, his tone sharp. Revitalization? No, it's displacement. He profits while destroying lives. Social media exploded in real time. Hashtags like Yanshuns expose Gregory Hensley trended worldwide as viewers shared screenshots and demanded accountability. Backstage, Jamal watched the broadcast with wide eyes. Is this really happening? He whispered to Monique. It's happening, she replied, tears streaming down her face. And it's because of you. Meanwhile, Gregory paced furiously in his condo, muttering threats under his breath. His empire, the image he'd spent decades building, was crumbling before his eyes. But Ezekiel wasn't done yet. Midway through the show, chaos erupted backstage. Security guards struggled to contain Gregory as he stormed onto the set, shouting, accusations. This is slander, lies spread by jealous nobodies. Oprah raised a hand, silencing him effortlessly. Mr. Hensley, please take a seat. Your behavior speaks louder than any denial. Gregory froze, realizing too late he'd walked straight into a trap. Cameras zoomed in as Ezekiel stood, his expression unyielding. You ruined my life, Ezekiel said, his voice cutting through the tension. You taught me firsthand how privilege works, how it protects itself at all costs. But here's the thing. Privilege only lasts until the truth catches up. He gestured toward the documents displayed, on screen. Every lie you've told, every life you've destroyed, it ends now. I'll make sure of it. For the first time, Gregory looked shaken. The confident mask slipped, revealing fear beneath. You think this changes anything? He spat, though his voice wavered. It already has, Ezekiel shot back. Because now the world knows who you really are. As Gregory was escorted off stage, the audience erupted in cheers. Justice felt tangible, electric, an undeniable force driving change. Behind the scenes, Jamal hugged Ezekiel tightly. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with gratitude. Ezekiel smiled, placing a hand on Jamal's shoulder. Thank you. You reminded me why I started this fight in the first place. With Gregory's reputation in ruins, Ezekiel turned his attention to rebuilding what had been lost, including Jamal's dreams. I want to invest in your business, Ezekiel announced during a follow-up interview. Not just as a stand, but as a movement. Carter's Cool Lemonade Co. will become a nationwide chain, empowering marginalized youth to create opportunities for themselves. Jamal beamed, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in fortune. Are you serious? Dead serious, Ezekiel replied. You've shown incredible resilience. Now let's channel that into something bigger. Within weeks, plans were underway. Monique managed logistics, ensuring every decision reflected Jamal's vision. Schools across the country reached out, eager to partner with the initiative. As the first new stands opened, Jamal stood proudly behind the counter, serving cups filled not just with lemonade, but with hope. This isn't just about drinks, he told reporters during a ribbon-cutting ceremony. It's about showing kids like me that our dreams matter, that no matter how hard things get, we can rise above. Ezekiel watched from the sidelines, pride swelling in his chest. The boy who'd once been mocked now inspired thousands. Yet, amidst the celebration, Ezekiel couldn't shake the thought that his role in this story wasn't over. Somewhere there were others still silenced by systems like Gregory's, and he intended to keep fighting, for them and for the future. It was a quiet afternoon when Marcus Rivera approached Jamal outside the newly reopened lemonade stand. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets and his eyes avoided direct contact. Can we talk? Marcus asked hesitantly. Jamal paused, wiping his hands on a towel before nodding. Sure. They walked to a nearby bench, the tension between them palpable. After a long silence, Marcus finally spoke. I owe you an apology. A big one. Jamal crossed his arms but didn't interrupt. Gregory paid me to spread those rumors about you, Marcus admitted, his voice trembling. He said no one would believe me unless I made it sound serious, like you stole supplies or something. I didn't think it'd blow up like this. Jamal exhaled sharply, memories of betrayal flooding back. You could have told me the truth, instead of letting everyone think I was lying. I know, Marcus replied, guilt etched across his face. But I was scared. Scared of what Gregory might do if I backed out, and scared of losing you as a friend anyway. Turns out I did. Both. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Birds chirped in the distance, filling the awkward silence. Finally, Jamal sighed. I get it, okay. You messed up. But you're here now. That counts for something. Marcus looked up, surprised. You mean you forgive me? It's not gonna fix everything overnight, Jamal said firmly. But yeah, I forgive you. Just promise me one thing. Next time someone tries to buy your loyalty, you say no. Marcus nodded solemnly. I will. Thanks, man. For real. As they shook hands, a weight lifted from both their shoulders. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but it was a start. And in that moment, Jamal realized he wasn't just rebuilding his business. He was rebuilding trust, too. With Oprah Winfrey championing the cause and Ezekiel Hensley funding operations, Carter's Cool Lemonade Co. transformed from a humble stand into a nationwide movement. The first flagship store opened in Jamal's hometown, its walls adorned with murals celebrating resilience and unity. This isn't just about selling drinks anymore, Jamal explained during the grand opening ceremony. It's about showing kids like me that our dreams matter, that no matter how hard things get, we can rise above. The initiative extended beyond lemonade. Partnering with local schools, Jamal launched workshops teaching entrepreneurship to underserved youth. Kids learned everything from budgeting to branding, empowering them to turn their passions into profit. Monique managed logistics behind the scenes, ensuring every decision reflected Jamal's vision. Meanwhile, Ezekiel served as a mentor, guiding Jamal through the complexities of scaling a business. Every bottle sold fund scholarships for marginalized students, Ezekiel announced at a press conference. We're not just changing lives, we're creating opportunities. Social media buzzed with support. Influencers shared stories of young entrepreneurs inspired by Jamal's journey. Orders poured in from across the country, each purchase symbolizing solidarity against systemic oppression. One day, while touring a new location in Chicago, Jamal met a girl named Tia who ran her own handmade jewelry business. "You showed me I could do more than survive. I could thrive," she told him, tears glistening in her eyes. Jamal smiled, humbled by the impact. "You don't need me to keep going," he replied. "You already have everything you need inside." As the company grew, so did its influence. Politicians referenced Jamal's story in debates about economic equity. Activists used it as a rallying cry against systemic racism. What started as a child's dream had become a beacon of hope for millions. Yet amidst the success, Jamal remained grounded. He knew the fight wasn't over, not while inequality persisted, but for the first time he felt equipped to face it head-on, and unbeknownst to him, someone had been quietly preparing him for this role all along. Months later, during a quiet dinner at Ezekiel's home, the older man leaned back in his chair, studying Jamal thoughtfully. "You've come a long way," Ezekiel remarked. "Further than most people, twice your age." Jamal shrugged modestly. "I had help from you, Mom, Oprah, everyone." Ezekiel chuckled softly. "True, but there's something you should know." Curious, Jamal tilted his head. "What is—" "For months now, I've been mentoring you," Ezekiel admitted. "Not just financially, but emotionally. Every challenge you faced, every decision you made. I was there, guiding you subtly, planting seeds of resilience and leadership." Jamal blinked, stunned. "Wait, you planned all this?" "Not exactly," Ezekiel clarified. "Your courage sparked the fire. I simply fanned the flames. When I saw how determined you were, even after everything you endured, I knew you were destined for greatness." Jamal processed the revelation, emotions swirling within him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because sometimes growth happens best when we don't realize we're growing," Ezekiel explained. "You need to find strength within yourself, not rely solely on others." A wave of gratitude washed over Jamal. Without Ezekiel's guidance, he might never have navigated the challenges of building a national brand. Yet Ezekiel's humility reminded him that true mentors empower without seeking credit. "You gave me more than money," Jamal said quietly. "You gave me belief in myself, in my community, in change." Ezekiel smiled warmly. "And you've proved me right every step of the way." As they raised their glasses in a toast, Jamal felt ready to take on whatever came next. Together, they weren't just breaking cycles, they were rewriting futures. The final montage began with Jamal standing before crowds of cheering supporters at rallies nationwide. Behind him, banners proclaimed messages of empowerment. Dream big. Build strong. Rise together. Cut to classrooms where children brainstormed ideas for their own businesses, inspired by Jamal's story. In Detroit, a boy sold homemade cookies to fund his robotics club. In Miami, a girl organized art shows to raise awareness about climate change. Back in Jamal's hometown, Monique oversaw expansions of the lemonade empire, while Ezekiel continued mentoring emerging leaders. Together, they built networks connecting marginalized youth with resources and opportunities. On social media, hashtags like #Lemonade Leaders trended daily, amplifying voices often ignored. Stories of perseverance flooded timelines, reminding viewers that change begins with small acts of courage. In a poignant closing scene, Jamal returned to his original stand, the same corner where Gregory once mocked him. This time, however, the atmosphere brimmed with joy. Families lined up to buy cups of lemonade, each sip carrying echoes of resilience. As Jamal handed a drink to a wide-eyed child, he knelt down to meet their gaze. "Never let anyone tell you your dreams are too big," he said gently. "If I can do it, so can you." The camera panned upward, capturing a mural painted on the side of the stand. It depicted Jamal alongside countless other faces, young dreamers united by a shared vision of progress. Fade to black. Text appeared on screen. Dedicated to every kid, fighting for their place in the world. The screen faded again, leaving only the faint sound of laughter and clinking glasses, a reminder that hope endures, even in the face of adversity. This story reminds us that resilience can spark change, even in the face of overwhelming odds. If Jamal's journey moved you, imagine the impact we can create together by sharing this message of hope and empowerment. Your voice matters. Like this video to stand against injustice, share it to inspire others, and subscribe for more stories that challenge perspectives and ignite action. Together we can amplify voices that deserve to be heard and build a world where every dream has a fighting chance. Let's turn empathy into action, one step at a time.